All right, let's get right into this. We're talking about a story of a massive reversal, a complete 180 that has huge implications for the future of AI, not just in India, but for the whole world. It's a really wild ride from a pretty blunt dismissal to a gigantic 100 megawatt investment. To really understand what's going on, you have to rewind the clock to 2023. OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman said something that, well, it landed like a bombshell in India's tech community, and not in a good way. I mean, there it is. Pretty direct, right? The message to Indian startups and even the government was basically, don't even try. Don't try to build these massive core AI engines because you just can't compete. It's hopeless. That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Because you fast forward to his most recent visit, and the whole tune has changed. It's a completely different song. That word hopeless was nowhere to be found. So what on earth happened? How do you go from totally hopeless to India will build great models? Well, according to Altman himself, it really boiled down to two huge game-changing reasons. First up, it's just the insane speed of progress. Altman explained that the cost of getting a certain amount of AI smarts has been dropping by about 10 times every single year. That is an exponential curve that makes Moore's law, the one that powered the entire computer revolution, look slow. All of a sudden, what was impossibly expensive is now becoming within reach. And the second reason, it comes down to this number, 100 million. That's how many people in India are now using ChatGPT every single week. That explosive growth has turned India into OpenAI's second biggest market on the planet. I mean, you just can't ignore that. The user base has tripled in just the last year alone. But look, this trip wasn't just a victory lap to celebrate India's market growth. He also came with a pretty urgent and pretty sobering warning for the whole world about just how fast this technology is moving and the massive risks that come along with it. He used this example to show that we're not talking about small incremental steps anymore. Think about it. In just over a year, AI has gone from being like a high schooler fumbling with math problems to a PhD-level researcher that can come up with new ideas in theoretical physics. That's a staggering leap. And this is where things get really mind-bending. His prediction is that in just a couple of years from now, we might actually have more collective brainpower inside servers than in all of humanity combined. We're talking about the dawn of a true superintelligence. And he wasn't talking in vague hypotheticals either. He got very specific, pointing to extreme risks like biosecurity, the idea that someone could misuse a powerful AI to engineer a new disease. He's saying that's a real, near-term concern. Okay, so if the stakes are that high, what do you do? How do you possibly manage that kind of risk without just slamming the brakes on all of this incredible progress? That's really the central challenge of our time. This is the question he's been taking on a world tour, posing it to heads of state everywhere. And right there in New Delhi, he laid out his big idea, his proposed solution for how the world can cooperate.
He's proposing something modeled on the IAE, the international agency that keeps an eye on nuclear energy. The idea is to have a global AI agency that could audit the most powerful models, demand safety tests before they're released, and even set up a licensing system to develop them in the first place. But, and this is super important, he was really clear that he's not talking about regulating everything. This isn't about crushing small startups or open source projects. This kind of oversight would only apply to the absolute giants, the models way more powerful than anything that exists today, targeting players like OpenAI and Google. So that's the talk. But what about the action? Well, this is where Sam Altman really put his money where his mouth is. He proved his new faith in India in a very, very big way. Because all this discussion about India's potential, all the warnings and the ideas for regulation, it was all backed up by a huge announcement, a landmark deal that showed he was dead serious about betting on India's future in AI. That's right, OpenAI is partnering with the Tata Group. And for anyone who knows India, that is a massive deal. It's not just some small investment. The chairman of Tata called it a deep collaboration. It signals that OpenAI is committed to building the AI ecosystem right there inside India. At the very heart of this partnership is a huge commitment to infrastructure, to raw power. They're starting by building a 100-megawatt AI data center with a clear plan to potentially scale that all the way up to a full gigawatt. That's the kind of muscle you need for the next generation of AI.
And look, this partnership is so much more than just hardware. It's a whole package deal. It's about getting enterprise ChatGPT into the hands of thousands of Tata's employees. It's about a massive skills program to train 1 million young people. And it's about working together to build and sell custom AI solutions for different industries. It is a full-stack commitment.
So, where does all of this leave India? Well, the country is now walking this really interesting and complex tightrope, trying to build up its own AI power while also being a responsible player on the global stage. You can really see that balancing act right here. On one side, you have this powerful national ambition, this idea of sovereign AI, where India can design its own chips, build its own models, the whole thing. And on the other side, you have this global responsibility that Altman keeps talking about, the need to make sure everyone has access and that we manage these huge risks together. And this really gets to the core of Altman's message. He compares AI to fire or to the wheel. I mean, think about that. These are fundamental human discoveries. They're not things that one country gets to own. They're things that, even with all the competition, ultimately have to benefit everybody. And so that's the big question we're all left with, isn't it? As every country races to build its own AI dominance, how on earth do we all work together to make sure the future we're building is not just incredibly powerful, but also safe? That's not science fiction anymore. That's our immediate geopolitical reality.